mean, it's so complex, but it's, I mean, beautiful, man. It's made, it goes this way, and it goes that way. It goes both ways, but it goes vertical and it goes horizontal too. It's three-dimensional. I mean, only, like I say, only a god could do something like that. Or, like I say, a badass demon almost equal like a god. I doubt it. But I really don't know. That topic is I mean, it's impossible to prove. Only the lonely knows about it. Only the ones that had a super consciousness developed. See, you see that it's in columns. It's all in vertical, horizontal, diagonal, look like that, like this, like that, like that. It's insane, man. It's really insane, but it's what it is. I can't change that. You're looking at it. I didn't make that up. The picture, I'm not using any Photoshop or anything. I'm just using this camera function that can see in the dark. They enhance the light in the darkness. And that's what you're seeing here. Look at these tubes. The killer deal is that these tubes are passing in front of the moon and through the moon. So the moon is inside that tubey translucent deal, which is it permeates all over the solar system. So when I hear that this thing rotates or that thing rotates, but then you see these structures, these crystalline looking structures, and you have to start thinking that this might not be but a perception deal, that you're percepting a rotation, but really is vibrating. Remember that the atoms are vibrating, and everything vibrates a certain frequency, electromagnetic frequency, because that's how everything moves. That's the juice of the universe. Anyway, what was created by this entity we call God, the super consciousness that moves everything and makes us think. Who knows, it's all those UFOs and all those entities, alien, we call them alien, might be just projections from this thing, and it's making us believe that that's what's happening, and we're just, all of us are, including the military-industrial complex. Oh, we got anti-gravity. But it's just that this super consciousness we call God is just is having fun with them, making them think that they're really talking to aliens and they're doing this and that, and it's all a big time game we're playing for him. Or for it. We don't know. The things that we see and feel are things that manifest through this consciousness. He can flick a finger and disappear everything. Something that has that power can do whatever. So, and then who knows who created him? And who created that? Who created that? Who created? You know, it can go back bigger and brighter and better, and more incredible. I mean, it's like who was first, the chicken or the egg? That simple question is a street with no end, I guess. You know, you get to think that, like I say, this is so amazing and so simple at the same time. Look at these structures. It really is sculptures, and then look like a face. Look right there, and that look like an eye. Look, with vertical pupil, but really it's a hand. Look, right there. You can see it so clearly. There is there are no two way to that street. It's only one way. Look, a hand like that. Look, the thumb, the index, the middle, the ring, and the pinky. It's a hand like that, holding this thing. And it's always that. This is an enormous finger and fingernail from a huge hand. Look, there's the right there, and there's the second one, and the third, and each one becomes a tiny and tiny and tiny, but they're always the same shape, always. I ain't looking for no other shape because that's all I see there. Once I found that that's the basic shape of everything, there is no point in looking for it because you're not going to find anything. It makes other figures out of that, but that's it. Look, there is a face right here, what it looked like a face. But it's all a matter of perception. Right here, look. Oops. What a shitty drawing. It's difficult to do a drawing with a mouse. And there's the other eye right here. What it looked like an eye. And it becomes bigger, but in reality, I'll show you what it is. That's a fingernail from a thumb. That's the thumb. And this is another fingernail from another thumb from two different hands. And look, that's another hand. Now I'm going with this because you have got to explain why that shape is the shape for everything there. It doesn't matter how round or how straight, it's always part of a hand, a finger and a hand. All of this. At first I thought of reptilian because I see the vertical pupil and the shape of a dinosaur. In reality, what that hand thing does, the creator, it's like a historical record. You can see black men's faces, white men's faces, reptilian men looking faces, but it's none of that. It's all of it and it's none of it. It's according to your perception. It's an honor to be represented there in that canvas. So reality is that all these celestial bodies are like a repository of things that are happening all over the solar system, probably the galaxy, because I've seen sceneries in another moon picture that look like sceneries from things, but they don't look human looking entities, shapes. It looks like somebody driving a motorcycle, riding a motorcycle. But when you look at it better, then you see that it's not a human, it's something else. It's not divine. But it appears to be that. So it's really, like I say, it plays with your imagination. It's what you associate shapes with things that you know. And I mean, whatever can do these type of things that are really impossible to make by the technology that we know. I mean, you have to have some kind of knowledge, some super deep understanding of the chemistry, the physics, the mathematical, the everything really. All around knowledge, so profoundly deep that we don't have a match. We cannot match that. We don't have that kind of knowledge. It's just simple. We cannot create things like this at this scale, nevertheless. These are hundreds of miles long and thick and whatever, all of it. When you step on that, then you realize that you are just a grain of sand in an enormous oceans. Our life span is so short. It requires such a knowledge of everything. Look, this hand on top of that, it's part of that hand, but it's part of another hand. Oops. Look, there it is. Ah. People doesn't know it, or they cannot see it because they don't understand it. Look. Here's the hand right there. It's like this. Look at the fingers. And that's the thumb. And it becomes bigger. Look, it's like it's a fractal. It repeats and repeats, smaller, smaller, smaller. I mean, the same thing, just repeat over and over. You can see the same shape. Even in the light parts, the brightest part is the same thing. It's just, it transfers from dark to bright and vice versa. And that's just the largest portion. Then it becomes the smaller ones, even to the tiniest. In that moon image from the Tsiolkovsky crater area, you can see that in colors on top of that. See, this is a hand like this. But at the same time, it's a hand like this, a bigger hand, like that. So, like I say, it keeps repeating all along the crust, the moon crust. And you can see structures, what we think are structures. It look more to me like a sculpture. Look, there is a hand holding the cylinder thing right there. Look, I'll show you. It's so perfect, my goodness. Ah.